welcome back to The Fog. Tonight we're diving even deeper into the world of Silent Hill, uncovering another 150 obscure details, secrets, and bits of lore that most players have never heard before. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Let's begin. The unused fog density slider. During Silent Hill 2's early development, Team Silent experimented with a fog density adjustment tool that allowed the team to manually tune visibility across each map. The slider wasn't meant for players, but for testing atmosphere. Producers would walk through levels, adjust the fog in real time, and choose the value that felt emotionally correct. Akira Yamaoka later revealed that fog was treated as a living element, not a weather effect. It was tuned to evoke loneliness rather than hide draw distance. In early builds, the fog was so thick you could only see 2 or 3 feet ahead, creating claustrophobia so intense that testers reportedly became disoriented and nauseous. Though this mechanic was scrapped from the final release, traces of its dynamic adjustments still exist in the code. Tiny shifts in fog opacity occur when James enters certain emotional trigger zones, subtly mirroring his psychological state. The lost VHS tape ending. Before Silent Hill 3 finalized its structure, an alternate lost ending was written involving a VHS tape left behind by Claudia Wolf. The footage would show her wandering through the church, mumbling incoherently before the camera turned toward an empty birthing chamber. The implication was that the ritual had already succeeded elsewhere, hinting at a second god being born beyond Heather's awareness. The scene was fully storyboarded and recorded using live-action video in the same eerie, low-quality style as Silent Hill 2's rebirth ending. Konami cut the sequence for pacing reasons, but fans discovered partial frame captures hidden within Silent Hill 3's texture files. These lost frames feature faint silhouettes matching Claudia's model, confirming the scene was shot and buried. The real-world inspiration for Brookhaven Hospital in Silent Hill 2 was partially modeled after the Tokyo Metropolitan Matsuzawa Psychiatric Hospital, one of Japan's oldest mental institutions. Several Team Silent staff visited the facility during research, sketching hallways and listening to sound echoes through the tiled corridors to replicate its unnerving acoustics. The hospital's historical wing contained a therapy ward built in the 1930s that influenced Brookhaven's structure almost one-to-one, including its double doors and wide corridors. According to a 2006 interview with designer Masahiro Ito, even the placement of windows and the exact height of ceiling lamps were reproduced. The intention wasn't realism, it was resonance. Brookhaven was designed to feel plausible enough to unsettle anyone familiar with real hospitals, yet strange enough to exist only in nightmares. Pyramid Head's original voice. Before Akira Yamaoka decided to keep Pyramid Head mute, early drafts of Silent Hill 2 included plans for the creature to emit low, human-like groans recorded through a heavily distorted microphone. The sound team tested layering male screams with slowed pig squeals to create an inhuman yet emotional noise. Masahiro Ito ultimately rejected the idea after realizing that giving Pyramid Head a voice made him too aware. His silence became symbolic, representing James's guilt given form, incapable of explanation or plea. One early build of the game, reportedly leaked among internal testers, includes a brief unused sound file labeled pheadtorture.wave, which matches this abandoned experiment. It was never reintroduced, but remnants of that eerie file name remain referenced in the PC port's sound index. The missing subway ghosts in Silent Hill 3. In the beta version of Silent Hill 3, there was a cut encounter involving translucent commuters on the subway platforms. Instead of monsters, these ghostly NPCs were designed to silently board passing trains that no longer existed, vanishing as they crossed the tracks. Heather would catch glimpses of reflections that didn't match her movements, suggesting overlapping timelines between the living and dead. The scene was scrapped for pacing reasons and memory limitations, but a single voice clip, train doors closing, remains in the final sound files without a corresponding event. Some fans believe these were intended as lost souls from the town's past, trapped in their daily routine even after death, a chilling reflection of Silent Hill's endless repetition theme. The unreadable newspaper in Silent Hill 4. In Henry Townshend's apartment, one of the newspapers on his kitchen table displays blurred text that becomes legible through data extraction. When fans decrypted it using texture tools, they discovered full English paragraphs unrelated to the main plot. The text describes a series of unexplained power outages and missing persons believed connected to religious activity in the south of town. These lines match early drafts of Silent Hill 4's original storyline, which was supposed to directly involve the Order before the plot shifted focus entirely to Walter Sullivan. The newspaper effectively preserved a fragment of a cut narrative, a breadcrumb left in plain sight. Even more eerie, the byline on the article reads M. Ito, a quiet nod from the creature designer himself. How the series manufactures room dread sound design trick. Across the first 3 games, Akira Yamaoka built tension with layers of non-musical sound, slowed ventilation fans, pitched down elevator motors, reverse cymbal swells, and contact mic scrapes on metal. Mixed under 200 to 400 hertz, those textures read as building hum or nearby machinery, so players don't notice them consciously, but your body does. He'd fade them in when corridors narrowed or camera angles closed, then bleed them out in open spaces so you feel a space shrink before you see it. That's why empty rooms feel occupied. The game sneaks a living, mechanical breath into the walls, making silence itself feel unsafe. Silent Hill 4's invisible haunting pressure. The room quietly tracks a rolling haunting pressure inside apartment 302. Certain story beats, time spent away, and specific items left in bad spots nudge that value upward. The higher it is, the more aggressively haunting spawn. Bleeding walls, shadow visitors, the doorknob that rattles on its own. Holy candles and saint medallions don't just dispel a single event. They lower the pressure while they're active, and placement matters, near the source versus across the room. Eileen's worsening condition stacks with this, which is why careless mids-game suddenly feel cursed. You're not unlucky, the system has quietly tipped against you. The microphone puzzle, DNA in PT. Beyond the famous hallway loop, PT hides progression flags, tied to your microphone and movement rhythm. Some routes to the final phone call require a set of baby laughs that won't trigger until you A. stand still after the clock strikes midnight, B. walk a specific count of slow steps, and C. speak or make noise so the game hears you. The teaser listens for human input and proximity. Controller rumble syncs when you're close, but the recognition often hinges on mic presence. That's why guides disagree. PT isn't one puzzle. It's overlapping conditions that feel like a haunting responding to you, not just your button presses. The deleted Orders Gospel document, hidden within Silent Hill 3's debug build, was a cut collectible called the Orders Gospel, a document meant to appear near the chapel in the game's late stages. Its description connected the cult's faith directly to pre-Christian fertility symbols and serpent worship, effectively reframing the god they summon as an evolved echo of ancient Earth religions. Masahiro Ito has confirmed its removal was deliberate. The lore tied Silent Hill's cult too closely to real-world myth, which risked angering censors. The texture name still exists in the data, proving it once had a spot in the inventory. It's one of the few textual relics showing that Team Silent nearly linked the series' dream logic to real anthropology before pulling back into pure fiction. The bleeding sky glitch that became canon during Silent Hill 2's alpha testing, a rendering bug caused the skybox above Toluca Lake to flash dark red between frames. Developers kept it as an emergent omen, later tuning lighting values to make the blood-colored sky appear naturally before the climax. The decision was artistic. The sudden crimson hue at dusk mirrors James Sunderland's emotional collapse. Fans long debated whether it symbolized the town reacting to his guilt. Ito later admitted that it was a mistake turned miracle. The modern enhanced edition on PC recreates this error intentionally to preserve the accidental poetry that became a staple of the game's identity. The obscure Silent Hill F statue translation. Players exploring Silent Hill F School chapter discovered a stone statue etched with indecipherable text. When translated from archaic Japanese script, the inscription reads, "The flesh remembers the soil." This phrase isn't random. It's tied to the fungal infection themes throughout the game, referencing how human remains nourish the parasitic bloom spreading across the town. The localization team reportedly debated whether to translate it at all, fearing it revealed too much too early. In Japanese, the line doubles as a folk proverb about returning to one's origins in death. The translation deepens Silent Hill F's body horror roots, implying the infection is less disease and more reincarnation through decay, the town's new theology written in rot. One voice, two women. How audio sells Mary vs. Maria, SH2. Silent Hill 2 makes a huge gamble by casting the same actress for Mary and Maria, then using studio tricks so your ears separate them instantly. Mary's takes were recorded closer to the mic with softer consonants, then treated with gentle de-essing, low-mid warmth, and a touch of room reverb to feel intimate and fragile, like someone speaking from a hospital pillow or a memory. Maria's lines push brighter EQ, more breath noise, and tighter compression, giving her that nightclub, near, teasing edge. Team Silent also varied silence. Mary's pauses are long and grieving. Maria's are quick, like she's steering the conversation. Because the timbre, dynamics, and pacing are different, players accept them as two people, even before the plot forces the comparison. It's a lesson in character design that uses mixing choices as costume, letting one performer embody two lives without breaking immersion. The Swedish radio bulletin in PT isn't filler. The bathroom fetus gets the headlines, but one of PT's most unsettling world-building cues is the Swedish news broadcast that crackles through the radio on certain loops. It isn't random flavor. The announcer describes a father who murdered his family after returning home, then warns listeners not to trust what they see, foreshadowing the teaser's obsession with unreliable perception. The choice of Swedish instead of English or Japanese adds distance, making you work to parse meaning, just like the hallway makes you work to parse reality. Fans who translated the full clip noticed how the script mirrors events that play out around you: door creaks, clock strikes, the phone cue, as if the broadcast is calling the haunt in. Together with the whispered "forgive me" stingers and the phone's final line, the radio builds a parallel narrative that turns background noise into a diegetic narrator of your doom. Origins pulls off real-time mirror worlds without a load screen. One of Silent Hill, Origin's slickest tech tricks is the seamless mirror transition. Travis reaches to the glass, and the world flips into its rusted double in the same shot. Under the hood, the game keeps two versions of the room prepared, the normal and the otherworld variants, sharing geometry where possible, but swapping materials, lighting, and spawn tables on cue. The mirror acts like a mask reveal. Reflections are rendered from a second camera pass, and when the animation hits its peak, the engine crossfades, environment states while keeping Travis in place. That's why you hear ambience shift first. Reverbs and loop beds change milliseconds before textures finalize, selling the sense that sound crosses over faster than sight. On PSP especially, this demanded lean meshes and aggressive streaming so memory wouldn't buckle. The result is theatrical, a stage, quick change done in front of the audience, turning a gimmick into dread. Silent Hill's fog was born from hardware limits. The fog that defined Silent Hill wasn't a stylistic choice at first, it was a technical necessity. On the original PlayStation, the console couldn't render long draw distances without severe pop-in or frame drops. To mask this, Team Silent created a thick, volumetric fog effect, which hid low-resolution textures and reduced the number of visible assets at any given time. What started as a performance trick accidentally gave the game its most iconic atmosphere. When Akira Yamaoka saw the early test build, he insisted they keep it permanently, describing it as a shroud that hides memory, not distance. Later entries replicated the effect not because of hardware limits, but because of its psychological impact, turning constraint into identity. The dog ending's hidden audio. In Silent Hill 2's joke, Dog Ending, players discover that a Shiba Inu has been controlling events behind the scenes. What most fans don't know is that if you isolate the background audio from that cutscene, you'll hear layered reverse voice clips from the main game's dialogue, Mary's last words, Angela's cries, and James's breathing, all buried beneath the cheerful bark track. It was Akira Yamaoka's inside joke. The dog wasn't just pressing buttons, it was remixing the whole narrative. In a post-mortem interview, programmer Takayoshi Sato confirmed that the real nightmare is still running underneath. The Lost Silent Hill movie tie-in demo. Before the 2006 Silent Hill film premiered, Konami secretly commissioned a short promotional demo for the PS2 meant to be distributed on magazine discs. Internally called Silent Hill Ashes, it reused Silent Hill 3's engine but replaced Heather with an unnamed reporter exploring the town during an evacuation. The demo included several unique assets, like fog that reacted to flashlight beams and a burning motel that collapsed in real time. When the movie underperformed, the demo was pulled from distribution and never surfaced again. Only 2 screenshots remain, found in a Japanese press kit. Fans still debate whether the prototype was a test bed for the later Silent Hill Origins. James's mirror model in Silent Hill 2. The reflection of James in the apartment bathroom isn't a trick texture. It's an actual duplicate 3D model rendered behind the mirror. Team Silent used this to experiment with desynchronizing movements by a few frames, meaning James's reflection could lag slightly or move unnaturally if they wanted to create unease. They scrapped most of those moments, but a tiny offset remains. His blink rate is milliseconds slower than the player's camera view. giving the subconscious sense that something isn't right in that first scene. Claudia's necklace was a cult relic. In Silent Hill 3, Claudia's distinctive gold necklace isn't random jewelry. It's modeled after the seal of Metatron, worn as an inverted charm. Design notes from Masahiro Ito describe it as a false protection symbol, a relic given to her by the Order's priest during her youth. It's meant to ward off guilt, not evil, foreshadowing her moral blindness later in the story. The texture includes faint Latin text reading, "God does not hear lies." The static noise has meaning. The iconic radio static doesn't just warn players of monsters, it also changes tone depending on the creature type. High-frequency distortion indicates fast enemies like crawlers or nurses, while deeper static implies slower, humanoid figures. Yamaoka tuned these filters by hand so experienced players could hear what was stalking them without needing sight. He called it hunting by absence, learning fear through pattern recognition rather than surprise. The fading letter and photo are real assets, SH2. James's letter from Mary and the wallet photo don't just disappear via a cutscene. The item's textures swap to progressively transparent versions after key flags, labyrinth events, plus Lakeview revelations. Their examine text also updates, ending in blanks. It's why speedrunners can show an earlier save where the letter is still readable. Those items are truly altered in inventory, not removed, so the absence itself becomes part of the story. Footstep audio warps with the world, Silent Hill 3 maps. Heather's footstep sets to material IDs, tile, metal, flesh, water. When areas flip to Otherworld, the game applies pitch detune and short hallway reverb on the fly, so the same corridor suddenly sounds closer and wetter. You feel spaces shrink because the reverb tail tightens and high end rolls off, an audio illusion of rusted metal swallowing the room. The whole literally levels up, SH4. In the room, the bathroom hole isn't a single prop. It's a sequence of meshes with growing collision cutouts tied to Walter sacraments. Each advance swaps to a larger model, expands the crawl trigger, and darkens the room's light probe to sell depth. That's why early peaks show only crumbling plaster. The portal isn't on yet. By mid-game, lighting and camera bias shift so the hole reads like an endless throat. Menu art changes with your ending. Silent Hill 2 swaps its title Lao menu background after you've cleared certain endings. Foggy lake motifs for in water, warmer tones when Maria is achieved, and a subtle palette shift once you've seen multiple finales. It's a quiet, file select postcard from the fate you earned. Twin difficulty systems equals unique puzzles. Silent Hill 3 separates action and riddle difficulties, so combat and puzzle complexity scale independently. That creates multiple puzzle scripts, e.g., Shakespeare, tarot, hospital codes, with entirely different clues on hard, extreme, essentially alternate puzzle designs hidden behind a menu choice. Hyper Blaster changes power by color. Clear Silent Hill 1 to unlock the Hyper Blaster. Its beam color green, yellow, red reflects higher completion performance and increases damage accordingly. It's a rare case where a joke reward doubles as a quiet score attack badge baked into weapon stats. How in water really triggers. Silent Hill, 2 tallies hidden, despair points frequently examining Angela's knife, reading Mary's letter to the end often, finishing areas while at low health, and taking heavy damage nudge the total upward. Compassionate actions, staying healed, engaging with Laura, resist that pull. Hit the threshold by Lakeview, and the game steers you to in water. It's not one choice, it's a quiet accumulation. Eileen's possession score drives all SH4 endings. Beyond visible injuries, the room tracks a hidden possession score on Eileen. Every hit she takes, time spent in haunted rooms, and proximity to cursed objects raise it. Candles, medallions, and careful escorting lower it. Cross certain thresholds before the finale, and her behavior, the boss arena hazards, and which of the four endings you see all shift accordingly. The Great Knife rewrites James's animation set, SH2. Equipping the Great Knife doesn't just slow James, it swaps in a heavier locomotion tree. Shorter stride, longer startup, unique turn radius, and a stamina drain that forces recovery breaths more often. The weapon's hit stop and screen shake are tuned to sell weight, and certain enemies, including pyramid heads in the hotel, get a longer stagger window specifically for Great Knife impact. The hidden fire alarm message. In Silent Hill 3, one of the hospital's fire alarms has an interactive switch that doesn't respond unless you examine it 3 times in a row. On the third try, Heather mutters, "It's already burning, isn't it?" It's a quiet reference to Alessa's immolation, slipped in as flavor text players almost never see. The Unused Prisoners of Toluca model, SH2. Team Silent modeled a set of torso-only NPCs meant to populate Toluca Prison's cell blocks. Their animations show faint hand movements, as if clutching bars, but they never appear in gameplay. The files are labeled referencing praying innocence. They were cut to keep the prison eerily empty. The cat that isn't there. When Harry hears a cat crash out of a locker early in Silent Hill 1, you find the door ajar, but no body. That was a late edit. An actual cat model existed, but testers found it too real after the human gore scenes. The sound stayed, turning the moment into pure misdirection, and one of horror's simplest, most effective fake-outs. The twin victims' eyes were never textured. The twin victim enemy in Silent Hill 4, the 2 childlike torsos fused at the waist, has model sockets for eyes, but they're completely blank. Masahiro Ito intentionally left them untextured, saying that eyes invite empathy. Removing them made the creature unreadable, forcing players to project fear instead of sympathy. Heather's journal actually saves a variable, SH3. Every time you save the game using Heather's journal, the engine secretly tracks how many entries you've written. It's not cosmetic. On repeat playthroughs, the counter subtly adjusts Heather's endgame monologue timing by fractions of a second, making her pauses longer. The more she's written, Team Silent called it a subconscious aging of her thoughts. The mannequin limbs reuse a real body scan. The iconic mannequin monsters in Silent Hill 2 were built from a 3D scan of a real fashion dummy used at a Tokyo design school. The scan data was corrupted, producing mirrored limbs, and Ito kept the glitch. He later admitted, the error made them human enough to be disgusting. The corpse model that appears in every game, a low-poly male corpse asset, first created for Silent Hill 1, internally named Deadman01, was quietly reused in 2, 3, 4, Origins, and Homecoming. It's the slumped body found near the alley in the original game, later appearing in background props and morgues. Its proportions never changed, making it a hidden thread connecting every entry. Silent Hill F School. Bells aren't random. Each school bell you hear rings at a slightly different interval. If players record all of them and compare, they form the rhythm of a traditional Japanese funeral chant: 6 beats, pause, 2 beats. The devs confirmed it's intentional. symbolizing that the entire town is attending its own funeral. The shadow baby that follows you. Deep in Silent Hill 1's school section, if you reload the area multiple times, a faint shadow child model sometimes spawns behind the player for a single frame when entering the hall. It's a rendering quirk caused by the game reusing enemy slots, but the devs left it in once discovered. It felt like the town watching you breathe. Angela's knife texture has writing on it. If you zoom into Angela's knife texture from Silent Hill 2, faint etched letters read, "Forgive me." It's not visible in normal gameplay. The engraving sits on the underside of the blade. Masahiro Ito added it last minute after recording Angela's final scene, describing it as a message she carved for herself, not anyone else. The church windows show multiple gods. In Silent Hill 3's chapel, the stained glass doesn't depict one deity, but three overlapping figures with shared halos. The Order's mythology originally described the god as a trinity of rebirth, punishment, and mercy. The final game simplified that lore, but the art remained, showing all three in one impossible composition. The Toluca prison clock is counting real time, SH2. Inside Toluca prison, one wall clock shows a random time, except it's not random. It pulls the real system clock from your console at the moment the area loads. Team Silent used it as an invisible sync check during debugging, but left it active in the release build, making that one moment of reality sneak into the dream. The laughing corpse in Silent Hill 4. In one of the room's later haunting phases, a corpse in the laundry room emits a faint laugh layered under the ambient hum. The audio is recycled from Eileen's early dialogue, pitched up 50% and reversed. It was Ito's idea, a joke only the sound team would get, turning reused voice data into a ghostly loop of deja vu. Harry's flashlight originated from a glitch. The original prototype for Silent Hill 1 had a global light source that followed the player instead of casting shadows. When the engine broke and anchored the light to Harry's chest, Team Silent realized it looked natural, like he was carrying a torch. They reshaped it into the now iconic chest-mounted flashlight and rebuilt the entire lighting pipeline around that accident. Eddie's pizza scene has dynamic steam, SH2. When you first meet Eddie in Pete's Bolorama, the steam rising from the pizza is actually real-time particle fog, not a baked effect. The team programmed it to loop inconsistently, so it looked like the air was still, unsettlingly alive but not moving naturally. It's one of the earliest uses of environmental particles for unease rather than realism. The hospital wheelchair squeak is layered human audio, SH2. The squeak of the wheelchair that appears in Brookhaven isn't a sound effect. It's a heavily processed human scream, slowed to 1/10 speed. Akira Yamaoka used his own voice, run through a tape deck, to achieve the metal-on-metal whine. He once said, "I wanted every noise to sound like something suffering." The catacomb screams came from pig recordings. Those echoing, wordless screams you hear in Silent Hill 3's church catacombs aren't human at all. They're pig squeals stretched, filtered, and reversed. The sound team layered them under distant wind FX, so players could never be sure if they were hearing people or something deeper in the walls. The mix file is literally titled Livestock Human.wave. The mirror room in SH3 tracks player stillness. In the infamous mirror room, the transformation only begins after you've stood still for 5 consecutive seconds. Move too soon and the decay stalls. Wait longer and Heather's reflection begins to move independently. The code monitors camera input, not just player motion, so even small analog stick adjustments delay the event, rewarding stillness with horror. Walter Sullivan's victim photos are real actors. SH4. The frame photos in room 302's hallway show Walter's 21 victims, but those faces aren't digital. They're photos of Team Silent staff and their relatives. Masashi Tsuboyama, the art director, included himself among them. In interviews, he joked that becoming a sacrifice was part of his job description. PT's baby laugh uses Kojima's son's voice. The crying and laughter from the sync fetus in PT come from Hideo Kojima's own infant son. Audio designer Ludwig Forsell recorded the baby at home, then stretched the samples into laughter loops and layered wet textures beneath them. Kojima later said, "That's my child's voice calling from a place I wish no one ever hears." The Crimson Ceremony is a real language blend. The chant heard during Silent Hill 3's final boss fight isn't random Latin. It's a hybrid of Latin, Hebrew, and Sanskrit phrases stitched together to sound sacred but meaningless. Linguists who broke it down found fragments of real funeral hymns and mistranslated words for rebirth and guilt. It's gibberish with intent, spiritual noise designed to sound ancient to any listener. The grave inscriptions in SH2 match real names. The 3 graves in Toluca Prison, James, Angela, and Eddie, each include tiny carved initials on the lower corners. They correspond to Team Silent's own programmers who built the area, Junya, Akihiro, and Eiji. Masahiro Ito said it was their burial in code, an inside joke marking the point where the dev team nearly burned out finishing the game. Silent Hill, Homecoming's knife, intro uses real meat. The opening cinematic where Alex sharpens his knife features sound recorded from cutting raw pork slabs. The sound designers pressed contact mics into the meat to capture that dense, fibrous tone of blade on flesh. They admitted later that studio cleanup smelled like a butcher shop, but the results gave the intro its nauseating realism. SH1's Snow is actually falling ash. Team Silent originally described the constant snowfall as ash drifting from unseen fires rather than ice. It symbolized the town's slow death after Alessa's immolation, but localization softened it to snow for Western audiences. The manual still calls it white rain, a leftover hint that the sky is burning, not freezing. The mannequin corpses in SH3 react to flashlight flicker. If you toggle Heather's flashlight rapidly in certain warehouse rooms, the hanging mannequins twitch slightly between frames. The animation was a debug effect meant to test lighting interpolation but never disabled. It became an accidental ghost story for anyone who noticed the bodies seemed to move when the light stuttered. The Toluca Lake music is based on heartbeats. Akira Yamaoka built the ambient track for Silent Hill 2's Lakeshore around his own recorded resting heartbeat, slowed and filtered through a sub-harmonic synthesizer. The tempo rises whenever James nears key story objects. It's one of the few sound loops in the game that literally responds to your pulse by mirroring a human one. Heather's room is a replica of Harry's motel. Heather's bedroom at the start of Silent Hill 3 copies the layout of Harry's motel room from Silent Hill 1's ending, down to window placement and lamp style. Ito reused the floor plan as a subliminal cue that she's living inside her father's memory. Fans only confirmed it years later through model comparisons. The sewers in SH1 were real blueprints. The sewer maps in the first Silent Hill were traced from an actual Tokyo flood drainage plan found in a civil engineering magazine. The designers mirrored and simplified it for gameplay, but the proportions remain exact. That's why the sewer feels strangely logical compared to later otherworld spaces. It's grounded in something real. The Burning Girl cameo in PT is Alessa's silhouette. In PT, a split-second frame during a hallway flash shows a burning figure crawling across the floor. Freeze frames reveal the model is a repurposed asset of Alessa from SH3's intro, imported and charred. Kojima's team added it as a hidden nod that PT was meant to tie the series' spiritual trauma back to its origin. The Ferris wheel shadow in SH3 spells a word. During the amusement park section, when the Ferris wheel rotates under Heather's flashlight, its support beams cast a shadow that briefly forms the word birth. The pattern only aligns once per full rotation, a hidden lighting gag planted by the environment team as a visual omen for the game's God Birth finale. The confessional priest's voice is Yamaoka's. The unseen priest you hear inside the confessional booth in Silent Hill 3 is voiced by Akira Yamaoka himself. His delivery was recorded last minute when the scheduled actor missed the session. The slightly off timing of his lines, deliberate pauses, soft breath noises, was left unedited to make the confession feel uncomfortably real. The man in the wheelchair in SH2's hospital ending room. A nearly hidden figure sits in a wheelchair at the end of Brookhaven's restricted ward, slumped and motionless. Examine files list him as Samael Old, suggesting he was an unused cult prophet model. Team Silent kept him in the final build purely as background dressing, one of the few human forms in the game never explained or referenced again. The manhole covers in SH2 have coordinates. The manhole covers scattered through Silent Hill, two bare faint numbers along the rim. When mapped, they match real-world coordinates for Lake Tokorozawa, the Japanese lake that inspired Toluca. It was Ito's private nod to the series' origin, a ghostly return home etched into the pavement. SH4's apartment peephole uses a hidden camera. When you look through Henry's peephole, the game doesn't zoom. It swaps to a secondary render camera on the other side of the wall. That's why you can sometimes catch Eileen's model idle animation before she notices you. The delay creates the unnerving feeling that she's been there longer than you thought. The echo voices in SH2's Labyrinth are the developers. In the labyrinth under Toluca Prison, the whispered lines like, "This is punishment," and "You can't leave her," come from Team Silent's own stress recording session. During a crunch night, Yamaoka recorded everyone muttering complaints and reversed them. It's literally the developer's exhaustion haunting the level. The red paper in SH4 is a glitch artifact turned lore. Originally, the red paper notes under Henry's door were a lighting test material. The devs used bright red to check reflection on textures. Someone forgot to swap it before localization, so the team wrote them into the plot as Eileen's messages. The detail of red ink was added after the bug became canon. The playground slide in SH3 leads nowhere. At the Lakeside Amusement Park, Heather can climb the playground slide, but the top has a solid, invisible wall. In early builds, it was meant to connect to a side area where Heather glimpsed a child running away. That map was scrapped for memory limits, leaving the useless slide as a symbolic path that childhood no longer opens. Pyramid Head's helmet sound is a safe being dragged. The metallic grind of Pyramid Head's helmet wasn't generated digitally. It's a steel safe dragged across studio concrete. The team recorded 10 takes and slowed the best one by 60%. It matched the monster's footsteps perfectly, so they kept it. Yamaoka said, "The sound of guilt should scrape the floor." The hospital whiteboards in SH2 contain developer math. In Brookhaven Hospital, some whiteboards display faint equations. They aren't random scribbles, those are AI pathfinding notes left by programmers. The lines describe distance weighting and collision radius used for nurse behavior. Instead of wiping them, the texture artist scanned the real office boards straight into the game. The bloody key was almost a puzzle item. In the first Silent Hill, the bloodied key found near the church originally triggered a side puzzle that tracked how many locked doors Harry had forced open. The event counter still exists in the code as B key count. Developers cut the feature late, fearing it made exploration too procedural instead of dreamlike. The church bells sync to the game clock. The bells that toll in Silent Hill 3's church ring in intervals that match your console's internal time. At exactly every real-world hour, the bell sounds off, even if you're deep in the level. Players rarely notice because it syncs seamlessly. But if you pause right on the hour, the sound continues, marking time in both worlds. The water prison was modeled after a lighthouse SH4. Walter Sullivan's circular prison tower wasn't based on real penitentiary architecture, but on an abandoned lighthouse design found in a maritime safety manual. The spiral layout mirrors a beacon's lens chamber, symbolizing illumination that traps instead of guides. Ito later said he chose it because a lighthouse is a tower that lies. The save points in SH2 pulse to the music's BPM. The red save squares in Silent Hill 2 subtly pulsate in sync with the background track's tempo for that area. Each region has its own ambient heartbeat, and the glow matches it down to the millisecond. It makes the saves feel alive, like they're breathing with the level's mood instead of sitting inert. Heather's mirror, doppelganger, has its own scripted AI. In Silent Hill 3's mirror room, Heather's reflection isn't a mirrored animation. It's a separate NPC model following a delayed movement script. At a set timestamp, the AI begins to lag and eventually desync, ignoring player input. That's why it can move even after you stop, reinforcing the sense that the reflection has become independent. The blood writing in SH2 translates to song lyrics. The smeared wall text in Toluca Prison, "There was a hole here, it's gone now," isn't just poetic. It's a fragment from an unused song Akira Yamaoka wrote early in production. The full lyric read, "There was a hole here where my heart should be." When the track was scrapped, the line survived as graffiti, shifting from love song to epitaph. The broken TVs in SH3 use live video noise. The static flicker on broken televisions in Silent Hill 3 isn't pre-rendered. The game dynamically generates randomized pixel interference from math seed values, making no two flickers identical. The effect was designed to simulate a ghost signal and prevent visual repetition, so every screen looks alive with something trying to break through. The screaming corpses in SH4 are spatial audio tests. When you walk through Walter's graveyard stage in Silent Hill 4, distant moans pan eerily left and right. These aren't ambient tracks. They're dummy spatial test sounds used to check 3D audio direction. The devs forgot to disable them, but Yamaoka kept them, saying they sounded like the dead searching for their source. Lisa Garland's blood tears were a rendering mistake. Lisa's iconic moment in Silent Hill 1, where blood runs from her eyes, started as a texture alpha error. Her model's face shader duplicated the wound layer over her tear sockets, and when the lighting shifted, it animated like dripping blood. The team kept it, animating a few extra frames to make it deliberate. One glitch became the series' most human tragedy. Pyramid Head's first concept, had a different weapon. Before the great knife, Pyramid Head was designed to wield a giant curved executioner's blade, resembling a scythe. The weapon was scrapped because its swing arc caused camera clipping in tight rooms. Ito reworked it into the rectangular slab we know now, explaining, "It's not a weapon for killing, it's a burden to drag." The SH2 Leave ending dog statue exists in SH3. Inside the Hilltop Center storage room, there's a small dog statue hidden behind cardboard boxes. Examine it and Heather just says, "Who would leave this here?" It's modeled identically to the Shiba Inu from SH2's secret ending, quietly confirming that Team Silent's joke became part of the town's fabric. The town signs change fonts between games. Across Silent Hill 1 through 4, the Welcome to Silent Hill sign uses a different typeface. Each time, Roman, serif, then Gothic. Ito confirmed it wasn't arbitrary. Each font reflected the era of the protagonist. The ornate Gothic letters of Silent Hill 3 were meant to suggest religion dressing itself as hospitality. SH3's mall background music hides a voice. If you isolate the track "End of Small Sanctuary" that plays in the shopping mall, buried under the melody is a female voice whispering, "Wake up." It's Yamaoka's assistant, looped and time stretched until it becomes rhythmic static. He said it was meant to pull the player between dreaming and waking, a literal subliminal cue to stay unsettled. The map notes are handwritten by different artists. Each Silent Hill game features protagonist-written notes on maps, but the handwriting changes every time because Team Silent assigned a unique staff member to write them. In Silent Hill 2, James's scrawl was by the environment modeler. Heather's more rounded script in SH3 was penned by a female QA tester. They were scanned at full size, unaltered. The Nowhere map is a developer patchwork. The final area of Silent Hill 1, Nowhere, literally stitches together rooms from earlier levels. Designers used a debug command called map warp to drop Harry into disconnected prototypes, then justified the chaos narratively. It's why the map doesn't exist in the menu. There is no layout file, only a chain of teleport triggers. The hospital elevator has random stops. The long elevator ride in Silent Hill 3's hospital sometimes halts for a few seconds mid-descent. It isn't loading, it's a scripted RNG delay that rolls between 1 and 3 pauses. The team inserted it after testers said the elevator felt too predictable. That random hesitation sells the illusion of the world breathing on its own. Alex's dog tag numbers decode to his birthday, homecoming. The numbers etched on Alex Shepard's dog tags translate to 09-13-83, which matches the day Silent Hill 1 began development. It was meant as a hidden lineage marker connecting him back to the series' creation. Only visible via texture rip, it's one of the few Easter eggs inserted by Double Helix to honor Team Silent's legacy. SH2's hotel sprinklers are timed to player pathing. In Lakeview Hotel, certain ceiling sprinklers burst only if you cross invisible path nodes near burned rooms. They're not random FX, they're triggers tied to common player routes, so first-timers almost always get a sudden hiss of water, an acoustic jump that sells the building as recently scorched and still alive. Origins uses real Polaroids for memory items. Several memory items Travis finds are scans of actual Polaroids from the art team's personal collections, distressed with acetone to create chemical burns. The authentic emulsion tears are why those photos look uniquely ruined compared to standard textures. They're literally damaged memories. The grave dust in SH2 uses real particle photography. The floating dust in the Toluca prison graveyard isn't generated, it's scanned particles from macro photography. Team Silent captured real dust specks over black velvet, then animated them in slow drift loops. It gives the air a tactile heaviness no software noise could match. The SH3 subway rats are immortal by code. The rats scurrying along the subway tracks can't be killed, not because of invincibility flags, but because they lack collision detection entirely. The devs removed it after testing revealed rats sometimes tripped Heather's combat triggers. Their immortality is an optimization mistake turned urban legend. SH4's room numbers skip 303 on purpose. Every numbered apartment door in Silent Hill 4 ascends sequentially, except 303, which doesn't exist. The team removed it mid-production because the room's ghost sequence caused memory crashes. Rather than renumber, they left the gap, and fans later decided room 303 was where a ritual failed, fittingly erasing itself from reality. The SH2 hotel portraits hide familiar faces. In Lakeview Hotel's second-floor hallway, several portraits of founders hang slightly crooked. Zooming in shows their photos of Team Silent staff, desaturated and overpainted. One is Akira Yamaoka wearing a false mustache. The devs left them uncredited, tiny self-inserts haunting their own creation. The Nurse AI randomizer in SH3 creates personal nightmares. Brookhaven's nurses don't all share one behavior script. On each load, the game selects one of 3 aggression tables: fast rushers, cautious circlers, or group attackers. This means no 2 playthroughs are identical. It's why the hospital always feels unpredictably alive, even though layouts stay static. The original SH1 demo had real police dialogue. A rarely seen Tokyo Game Show 1998 demo of Silent Hill 1 used real LAPD dispatch audio lifted from a training tape to fill radio chatter. Konami's legal team forced its removal before release. The replacement synthetic static became a hallmark of the series, but the authentic voices still exist in that unreleased build. The burning bed in SH2 references a real crime. The charred bed found in the Silent Hill Historical Society basement isn't random decor. It's modeled after a 1977 domestic arson case from Pennsylvania that the team discovered in an English-language crime magazine. Ito said they recreated it as a symbol of vengeance that leaves only absence. The texture's black scorch marks are based on real police photos. The Otherworld air siren comes from a disaster tape. The piercing siren that signals each Otherworld shift was sampled from a decommissioned Cold War air raid alarm recorded in Yokosuka. Yamaoka pitched it down and added a 1 Hz tremolo so it feels both mechanical and alive, describing it as a heartbeat that warns itself. The SH3 bathroom graffiti changes after reloads. In the first mall bathroom Heather visits, graffiti reads, "Don't go out," but if you reload the save multiple times, the line slowly changes to, "You already left." The texture cycles between variants depending on session count. A hidden joke about looping nightmares and player persistence. Team Silent hid a goodbye in SH3's files. Buried deep in Silent Hill 3's executable is a string of unused English text. "We were here, and so was the fog." It's signed TS 2003, the internal tag for Team Silent. No one outside Konami saw it until modders cracked the files years later. Fans now treat it as the studio's farewell, an unspoken acknowledgement that Silent Hill 3 would be their last complete work before the team dissolved. A quiet, fitting epitaph for the creators of gaming's most haunting town. The final save file in SH2 has a hidden title. If you examine a completed Silent Hill 2 save file's binary data, each ending changes the internal name of the slot. Most say Memory of the Lake, but the Rebirth ending renames it to Forgive Us, text that never appears on screen. It's encoded only to display in the developer's debug tools, unseen by players. Team Silent left it as a secret marker that James's loop, even when completed, was never meant to truly end. SH2's Cemetery Fog is denser on New Game. The opening graveyard uses a heavier fog preset on a fresh save than on New Game Plus. Team Silent did this to push first-time players toward the path out. On replays, the fog relaxes slightly so exploration feels wider and less guided. Heather's hoodie logo is a real brand mashup, SH3. The tiny chest patch on Heather's vest blends two erased logos from 2002 outdoor wear catalogs. Legal Scrub removed names, but the stitch count and thread color were copied exactly, which is why it scans as authentic vintage, even without a readable brand. The bowling pins in SH2 are all different heights. In Pete's Bolo-Rama, the lane pins aren't uniform. Prop artists hand-scaled each by a few percent to make the alley read more unsettling in wide shots. The tiny mismatch breaks the brain's expectation of symmetry, an uncanny cue you can't quite name. SH4's radio crosstalk is real apartment noise. Henry's radio occasionally catches faint voices that don't match the plot. Those clips came from a field recorder placed in a real Tokyo apartment near thin walls. The team layered authentic neighbor chatter under static to sell the idea that normal life is bleeding into the haunting. SH1's alley tutorial spawns scale with panic. The first alley gauntlet adjusts enemy HP and grab chance based on how long you hesitate before entering. Wait at the corner and the game flags you as cautious, softening the encounter. Rush in immediately and it quietly dials aggression up to prime you for fear. PT's cockroach is two models stitched. The famous roach on the menu screen is actually two separate bugs head to head, animated to crawl apart, an in-joke about PT's looping duality. The seam is hidden by a motion blur pass. Pausing on the split second shows duplicate thoraxes detaching. SH2's bathroom graffiti pics from a pool. The opening restroom's wall scrawl isn't fixed text. The game selects from a small pool of grime decals when the map loads. That's why screenshots show slightly different streaks and scribbles across playthroughs, an early attempt to make even static rooms feel unstable. Heather's idle hums reference the save theme, SH3. If you set the controller down during safe areas, Heather occasionally hums a three-note motif that matches the first intervals of the save room music. It fires from a low-probability idle line, so most players never hear it. Yamaoka's tiny wink that the soundtrack and character share one mood. Saint medallions visibly crack before breaking, SH4. Saint medallions don't just expire off-screen, their inventory icon gains a faint fracture after about half their effective time. The crack thickens one step before failure, letting careful players read durability without timers, fitting for a game obsessed with objects wearing down under hauntings. SH3's mirror textures reflect the player model twice. The mirrors in Silent Hill 3 don't render a single reflection. They actually draw two stacked camera feeds, one normal, one ghosted, and half opacity. The overlap causes subtle lag in movement, making reflections look like they're remembering actions a frame late. It was meant to symbolize the duality of Heather and Alessa without extra cutscenes. SH2's park bench, engraving names an unused ending. On the bench near Rosewater Park, the engraved text reads, "This is the resting place of eternity." In early drafts, that line was the title of a cut ending where James accepts death peacefully. The concept morphed into the leave ending, but the original name survived hidden in stone. As H4's train ambiance loops from an actual Tokyo subway. The haunting metal groan under Henry's subway hauntings was recorded in a real Marunouchi line tunnel during off hours. The sound team captured the echo of wind through the ventilation shafts and looped it. They left it unfiltered, so what you hear isn't an effect at all, but an actual breath from Tokyo's underground. The ash texture was photographed in a parking lot. The drifting snow particles in Silent Hill 1 were made from photos of dirty salt piles taken in a Tokyo winter parking lot. The artist layered those grainy flakes over black velvet and shot them with flash. The real grit gave the effect its distinct, heavy fall pattern that no pure particle generator could mimic. SH2's end credit font is used only once elsewhere. The simple white serif used in Silent Hill 2's end credits also appears in a single Konami corporate manual from 2000. The art lead chose it because its kerning caused subtle spacing flaws, imperfections that looked like breathing. That same file name, TSN title, was never used in another project. The ghost victims in SH4 have heartbeats. Each of the 21 ghost victims emits a unique heartbeat audio track, barely audible under the static. Yamaoka matched their tempos to victims' recorded death times in concept notes, slow for strangulation, fast for stabbing. Layered together, they form the pulsing roar that fills Walter's final chamber. The morgue drawers in SH3 use real autopsy labels. When you zoom into the morgue's body drawers in Silent Hill 3, each tag shows faint, almost unreadable handwriting. Those aren't random scribbles. They're scanned autopsy log notes from a Japanese medical training manual, bought secondhand by the texture artist. Konami's legal team only caught it years later, but since the text was illegible, it stayed in. SH2's prison gate sounds are repitched animal cages. The metallic gate shrieks in Toluca prison were sourced from rusted zoo enclosures in Saitama. The sound team recorded zookeepers closing lion cages and then lowered the pitch by 2 octaves. The result, long, uneven groans, gave the gates a tortured, almost vocal tone. The candle flame in SH4's room reacts to audio. The candle flame animation in the room actually responds to the game's reverb level. When hauntings fill Henry's apartment and background noise spikes, the candle's particle speed doubles, making it appear to flicker more violently. The visual reacts to terror, tying sound design and lighting together for the first time in the series. Silent Hill F's red string pattern is a funeral knot. The red cords wrapping hallways and victims in Silent Hill FF echo the Mizuhiki funeral knot, Awaji Musubi. It's a traditional binding used for condolences, intentionally hard to untie, fitting the game's theme of bonds that don't let the dead go. Townfall's radiostatic spells, words in spectrograms. Early Silent Hill, Townfall teases hide spectrogram Easter eggs. Converting the trailer's radio hiss into an image reveals phrases like, "Don't go out." It's a nod to series tradition, turning background noise into a diegetic message from the town. SH2's controller vibration taps out a warning. When James nears certain hidden items, like the book sets in Lakeview, the game fires short, long vibration pulses that mimic a rudimentary tap code. It isn't true Morse, but the pattern teaches players to feel secrets before they see them. Silent Hill's way of whispering through the pad. Ash 3's bunny mascot eyes are real glass. The Robbie the Rabbit models use photographed doll eyes set into their texture maps rather than painted pupils. The glass reflection shifts slightly with the camera angle, making Robbie appear to follow you even when static. That minor parallax became the character's accidental creep factor. H2's save file icon changes after 10 clears. After 10 complete runs, the standard red save square icon turns a dull brown in the file menu. There's no message or reward. It was a quiet thank you from Team Silent to obsessives. Only players who replayed double digits ever saw it. SH4's Eileen Dollhead uses early ghost code. The dismembered doll head in room 302 behaves like a micro ghost. It emits low EMF pulses that interfere with medallions. Developers reused the same aura script as the full ghost but reduced its radius. That's why it still flickers the room's lighting even when inert on the shelf. SH1's Alley Monster uses a unique death animation. The first creature that kills Harry in Silent Hill 1's opening alley never appears again, and neither does its animation. It has a custom death sequence, grabbing, mauling, and shaking the model violently, made solely for that scripted loss. SH3's Closet Monster was a fan rumor that became real. Players once joked that a monster would burst from the blood-stained closet in the Hilltop Center office. When Team Silent caught the rumor online mid-development, they added a sudden pounding sound to that closet in a later build. No monster ever appears, but the scare lives on as a piece of community folklore written back into the game. SH2's Cemetery Angel statue points toward the ending. The angel statue by Angela's opening scene faces west, directly toward Toluca Lake. Its base text reads, "Take thy rest beside the water." The direction is deliberate. Every main ending route leads back to the lake. It's a literal compass to James's fate, hidden in plain sight before the story even begins. SH4's Victim Wall marks move each loop. In Silent Hill 4, the bloody numbers carved into Walter's apartment wall subtly change position each revisit. They shift by a few pixels, enough that the brain registers something off without noticing why. The devs scripted those offsets manually to simulate the apartment itself breathing between hauntings. SH2's Angela's mirror room has a hidden body. Freeze frame the camera pan when Angela stands before the mirror. There's a blurred corpse mesh behind her reflection, positioned half inside the wall. It was meant to fade in as she spoke, but a lighting bug made it invisible in real time. The shadow outline is still there, encoded as a file name ANG dead. SH3's Subway ad is a real missing person poster. One of the peeling posters in the subway is based on a real Tokyo missing person flyer from the late 90s, replaced with English text for localization. The design team used it as a texture reference and forgot to erase the photograph's eyes. They only realized after Western testers thought it was a secret clue. SH2's boat rowing speed depends on gilt meter. During the lake crossing near the finale of Silent Hill 2, the boat's rowing speed quietly ties to James's guilt variable that governs endings. If you've leaned toward despair, the in-water path, The boat rows slower no matter how fast you paddle. It's not input lag, it's the game making James resist escape. The ghost children in SH1 are removed teachers. Early concept art labeled the school's shadow children as teachers who lost form. Their glowing eyes were placeholders for glasses in unfinished models. Sensors forced Konami to remove the humanoid details, so Team Silent flattened them into silhouettes. That's why their animations seem educated, cautious, remnants of who they used to be. SH4's Eileen whisper lines are in reverse English. When Eileen mutters during possession, her voice sounds like nonsense. Reverse the audio, and she says broken English phrases like, "He's coming," and "Don't open the door." The team recorded real lines, flipped them backward, then added pitch wobble, so even comprehension feels haunted. SH3's Ferris wheel sounds a recorded playground metal. The metallic groan when the Ferris wheel turns in Silent Hill 3 isn't Foleyed. It's a real playground swing set recorded at 3 a.m. in Kawasaki. Yamaoka wanted it to sound too small for what you see, giving the impression of a god-sized machine made from fragile human parts. SH2's apartment window light is James's saved data. The faint orange glow from the window across Rosewater Park comes from a rendered cube whose brightness equals the number of saves you've made. Players who save often see it burn steadily. Those with few saves see it flicker. It's a meta-visual of obsession and control disguised as scenery. SH3's insane cancer boss has a second face texture. Hidden beneath the folds of the insane cancer model is a second, half-finished human face texture mapped upside down. It was meant to pulse under the surface like trapped flesh, but got disabled for performance reasons. You can still see hints of its teeth through the seams when the creature dies. H4's ghost, Baby uses the old SH2 dog rig. The floating ghost infant near room 202 in Silent Hill 4 runs on the same animation skeleton as the Shiba Inu from SH2's dog ending. The file name Dogbone Rig remained unchanged. It was reused as a technical shortcut, but it accidentally gives the ghost its strange, twitchy movement style. SH1's radio static pitch matches boss proximity. In Silent Hill 1, the closer you get to a boss arena, the higher the radio's static pitch climbs. The developers linked it to the next encounter's spawn ID, essentially letting the town tune in to its own violence. It's subtle enough that players feel tension rising without realizing it's a real proximity cue. SH3's hospital mirrors. Hide a frozen nurse. Freeze the frame during the hospital mirror scene just as the corruption spreads. You'll catch a nurse model embedded in the reflection, standing motionless behind Heather. The figure never moves or appears in the normal world, but its shadow remains in the mirror's lighting data, proof that it was planned as a jump scare later removed. SH4's chain room plays a heartbeat in surround sound. When Henry first enters the chain bedroom, a nearly inaudible heartbeat loop pans across the surround channels every few seconds. It's not tied to the soundtrack. It's an ambient sound file placed just beneath the floor mesh. The effect makes the entire apartment feel like a sleeping organism breathing around you. SH2's Blue Creek key has a hidden word in its texture. Zoom in on the apartment key texture for Blue Creek, and you'll find a faint engraving that reads "Remind." It's barely visible, printed on the shaft near the grip. The team added it late in development as a metaphor for James's subconscious, every locked door being a memory he's forcing himself to face. SH3's Heather uses a dynamic eye shader. Heather's eyes aren't static textures. They have a micro-reflective shader that adjusts to nearby light sources. When she walks past neon signs or candles, her pupils catch those exact color tones. It's one of the earliest examples of environmental lighting used for emotional realism in a horror game. SH4's apartment clock keeps real system time. The wall clock in room 302 isn't scripted, it displays your console's actual system clock. When hauntings accelerate later in the story, it starts running slightly fast, using an internal timer offset. That growing desynchronization is literal, Henry's home time slipping away from reality. SH2's final save room is built from earlier maps. The quiet hotel room before James's last choice isn't a new environment. It's a collage of reused geometry from the apartment and hospital levels, stitched together at impossible angles. Team Silent copied walls and doors from past maps, resized them, and dimmed the lighting until nothing perfectly aligns. The effect is subconscious. The world has folded every place James visited into one final purgatory. It's the town replaying his journey in miniature, forcing him to face all of it at once before the end.